drivers using so-called ghost number plates, which can't be read by automatic number plate recognition cameras, could face fines of £1,000 under plans which are being debated in the Commons today.
It's an incredible statistic. It's thought that 1 in 15, that's 1 in 15 drivers, including organised criminals, of course, are using these plates to dodge detection and to bypass penalty charges.
It's a global problem. So, to illustrate it, we have here 2 Irish number plates. One of them, the bottom, has been modified to make it undetectable. So Richard has an infrared camera, which is unfortunate. Oh, there we go. Which shows you what happens, and we just need to dim the light so that you can see. And there we go. You can see. So the top one is a normal number plate and easily detectable. The bottom one is a ghost number plate and it's almost invisible.
Under infrared. But in daylight, it looks normal, so the police wouldn't know there was anything wrong with it.
Yeah.
We're joined now by Labour MP Sarah Coombes, who wants much tougher punishments to clamp down on this and is taking the issue to Parliament today, alongside Michael Flanagan from the British Number Plates Manufacturers Association, who can tell us more about the technical side. But Sarah Coombes, morning.
Morning.
Let's start with you. If you'd said to me that 1 in 1,000 drivers was doing this, I'd think, yeah, I can imagine that. Are you sure that it's 1 in 15?
Well, there was one study where it was 1 in 15, but I think the scale of this is quite unclear. Where I am in West Brom, we have a huge issue with car racing, and that's how I came across this in the first place, because sometimes you have 40, 50 cars racing along a residential road on Friday and Saturday nights, and it was the local police that told me that they're struggling to catch some of these people because they're using ghost plates.
And what are most drivers using them for? Simply to avoid getting done for jumping red lights and speeding, or is it more pernicious than that? Is it criminals who are using cars, you know, to rob shops or banks or whatever and drive away and not be detected? I
think it's potentially both, and that's why we've got to do something about it, because we need to make our streets safe. But if there are serious criminals using this to hoodwink the whole system and go under the radar, then it's a problem for all of us. And at the moment, the fine, only £100, there's nothing, so it's not going to be a deterrent.
And no points on the licence even?
No points on... It's less than a speeding fine if you get caught with one of these plates.
It's less than a parking fine in some
Exactly. And so that's why I wanted to raise it in Parliament today. And I think this is the first time it's ever been properly raised in Parliament.
Are you going far enough? I mean, we were saying earlier in our debate about this that actually I think most of us in the studio would be happy to see people lose their licence for 3 years and maybe even go to jail.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at all the possible deterrents because it's really serious. People are racing around the roads, potentially knocking people over, driving away. And at the moment, they're just not being caught.
The trouble is, if you've got a ghost number plate, how do the police catch you?
Well, exactly. At the moment, there are some cameras which can detect them, and the police are they're getting wise to it now and trying to crack down on it. But it is a big problem, and that's why we've got to do something about it.
OK, so let's talk to Michael Flanagan. You are chair of the British Number Plates Manufacturers Association. Michael, it must be illegal to produce a number plate like this.
It is most certainly illegal to produce stealth plates, ghost plates and cloned number plates. We have a very robust British standard, last revised in February 2018, which is the first performance standard in the world to legislate for the performance of vehicle registration plates.
So who's making these,
to be compatible with the police ANPR infrastructure.
Who's making these plates?
The sellers of these illegal plates operate under the radar, and they're selling mainly on the internet. On the 5th of February, as recently as the 5th of February, Amazon UK removed all of the illegal sellers from their website, and the least eBay UK should do now is the same.
What has actually been done to this lower plate that we saw earlier, a few minutes ago, being invisible once you look at it through the infrared? What's actually happened to this plate to make it invisible under infrared?
Well, the difference between the top compliant plate and the bottom one is that the raised solid black characters in the lower plate are fabricated from a plastic polymer which is invisible in the IR wavelengths.
It looks completely normal in the regular wavelength.
It does,
like
indeed.
Daylight,
in daylight.
Or even street lights.
Indeed.
But the darker it gets, under infrared, it vanishes.
Completely vanishes.
So it's not been sprayed with anything. It's the actual plastic.
I wonder if our camera, just can zoom in on what the infrared camera is picking up there, because as you can see, the bottom number plate is almost invisible, but the top one is quite hard to see there at that distance, isn't it? Continue. Sorry, I was interrupting.
And the organisations, the terrorist organisations, the serious criminal community can easily access number plates fabricated using stealth tape. They can easily access the ghost number plates simply by going on the internet.
Now, Sarah, the other fraud taking place, and this has been going on for longer because it's technically more simple, is that somebody steals, say, a Volvo estate. They clock a very, very similar vehicle, you know, in the next street. They write down the registration number, they go to a legitimate licence plate manufacturer and they get them to make that plate up and they put it on the stolen car, which means that the innocent party might suddenly find themselves getting tickets for speeding, going through red lights, and it wasn't them. It's a ghosted car. What are we doing about that?
Yeah, so that's a big problem as well. And there are some of these sellers who are not asking for any kind of identification and ownership details for some, what they call clone plates. They just say, here's the number that I want you to put on. They make it for them, and then they put it on the car.
So what are we doing about that?
Well, so there is rules in place about that. But again, it's about catching these companies. And there are too many of these companies who make those ghost plates. And you go online and they say, by the way, these are not legal to use on the roads. These plates are just for show. But they know full well they're not being used for show. They're being used on the roads. And honestly, go on Instagram, go on TikTok. There's so many of them. And that's why we've got to do something about it.
It's like saying this gun is not being produced for use in a crime. It's just for show.
Yeah.
It's nonsensical.
It's crazy.
Michael, if someone's buying a car, how can they be absolutely sure that their number plate hasn't been cloned or ghosted? Because I can't tell the difference from the naked eye between those two number plates.
Well, if consumers are buying a car from a member of the Retail Motor Industry Federation, for example, they can be assured that the 7 manufacturers and the critical suppliers of material to our supply chain, all of whom have signed protocols with the DVLA, they can be assured that the members of the RMIF are selling legitimate plates.
OK, I understand that, but you quite often will buy it from a private seller. So is there something I can see with the naked eye that gives me an idea that it's either cloned or ghosted?
It's impossible.
Wow.
It's simply impossible.
So if it's impossible for me, it's impossible for the police doing a patrol. What is the tech that we need to introduce to make this impossible for the criminals to operate?
We've had 2 very significant reviews of the British number plate and licensing system in the last 20 years. The first was conducted on behalf of Department for Transport by the Jill Dando Institute of Crime Science.
OK, but what I'm trying to get at is, can we give police a bit of equipment that means that they can spot it?
Well, we can give them an infrared camera, can't we?
But the police are equipped with infrared cameras. What we need are the stakeholders who contributed to this very comprehensive and detailed report published in July 2020. We need the stakeholders back around the table to deliver on the 9 key recommendations in this detailed, comprehensive report.
But in the short term, Sarah, what are you
there are some cameras, I think, that are better at catching them. So Wolverhampton City Council, which is next door to me, they're doing something to try and crack down on this. But we need to do both. If you're caught with plates, you need a much more serious penalty than you are right now for these dodgy plates. And then also, we need to be obviously supporting our authorities to get the cameras. But, at the moment, it's obviously not working.
It also seems to me that if you catch somebody using these dodgy plates, you need to do an investigation into them because they may have been committing crimes. It may be a very clear indicator.
Although, to be fair, as we just found out, if you innocently buy a car with one of these plates, you wouldn't have been able to notice it. Thank you both very much indeed. Let us know if you're affected by that particular issue.